Dead Rising is an interesting little series for me, as in I nitpick the crap out of it constantly. A lot of the faulty mechanics of the first game, being on the time limit constantly, some of the more demanding achievements, Otis, the list goes on. But when Dead Rising gets something right, it gets it right. And one of those things has got to be the series' psychopath bosses. These bosses provide a drastically different challenge from the entire rest of the game, and they can get pretty insane, so to speak. And we're gonna talk about some of my favorites today, so buckle down, kiddies! Also, I don't think I need to disclaim this, but the following video is definitely gonna contain blood, gore, some other combination of gross things. But just have a barf bag ready, man. You'll be fine. I'll be over here if you need me. So let me lay out the scenario for you. Zombies just got loose. Chaos, anarchy, blood, gore, everywhere you go. And the first thing you think of, I know, we both think the same thing, sex. We gotta have sex. It's the first thing we gotta, it's a fact. Chaos everywhere, it's like, I gotta sex the hell out of something. Every Dead Rising game so far has had at least one psychotic sexual predator. Dead Rising 1 had Joe Slade, and her battle sucks because it takes place in such a small-ass room and she, as well as you accidentally, can attack the many hostages she has in there. Dead Rising 2 had Randy Tugman, who forces attractive women to marry him, and has a pink chainsaw. Because chainsaws are everyone's favorite sex toy. It just fits in so naturally. And Dead Rising 3 had Dylan Fuentes, an extremely lustful man who has a... It just fits in so naturally. So what better way to start the list off than by picking one of these three wonderful people? In case you couldn't tell, Joe's out, so it's down to Randy and Dylan. Randy is pretty much a drastic over-exaggeration of a stereotypical virgin desperate for sex, and in this regard is more comical compared to Dylan, who has most likely gotten away with a lot of unconsensual stuff. Even Randy's boss music is more lighthearted. Than Dylan's.
Anyway, how is your sex life?
However, Randy's chainsaw, to me, is much more threatening a weapon than Dylan's, and this is the actual name, Lust Cannon. So, as much as I didn't want to resort to this being the tiebreaker, if I had to willingly let one of these two capture me, which one would I rather go with? Whew. Boy! I would pick Randy because he's only shown going after women and would most likely not do anything to me and maybe even eventually let me go. Whereas Dylan is bisexual.
What are you doing in here? You alright? Do you need some help?
And I do not want those teeth anywhere near me. So all that taken into account, Dylan beats Randy into the number 10 spot. And Randy's not the only thing Dylan beats. We got about 9 more of these to go. I hope you realize that. The fight with zombie rights activist Brandon, yes, you heard that part right, conceptually isn't anything too crazy on its own. Brandon's weapon is merely a broken sharp shard of glass he finds on the ground, and it takes place in the most epic of arenas. A men's bathroom! But Brandon can actually beat the crap out of you pretty easily if you don't have really good items or are underleveled. And he uses the freaking stalls to teleport. So I have to commend him for getting his battle strategies from Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. However, the main reason Brandon is on this list, and this is gonna sound so stupid, I like to pretend I'm fighting Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. A common joke amongst Dead Rising players is that Brandon looks like Shaggy. I disagree with this completely, but yet every time I fight him, I can't help but yell Shaggy lines, like zoinks and what have you.
Well, zoinks! Honestly, zoinks you in the ass!
It's a silly reason, yes, but I'm not gonna change my opinions because of it.
I have the guts, and I'm taking this thing all the way.
Yeesh, somebody here needs a Scooby snack or something. Dead Rising 2 off the record was supposed to be a what-if story. The what-if in question being if Frank West uncovered the truth behind the Fortune City outbreak in Dead Rising 2 instead of Chuck Green. So basically what would change plot-wise as a result of changing protagonists. And while changes to the plot do occur without giving anything away, even though it ain't canon, a lot of the changed events are things that really shouldn't be affected by a simple change of main character. They're just plot changes for the sake of plot changes. But I do like one thing they did. They made Chuck cuckoo.
Nobody messes with my kid.
In this version of the game, Chuck's daughter Katie was killed by zombies during the initial outbreak, driving Chuck insane and making him think she's still alive, as evident by the doll on his back. You kinda feel sorry for the guy as you're whacking him with a lightsaber. The battle loses some points for a couple things. He can be encountered very early, for starters. I felt he would have fit better as a bit of a late-game surprise. It's also pretty easy to get him stuck on a fence so you can chip away at him, and this boss is entirely optional. I felt this would have been better if Chuck played a more prominent role in the story next to Frank, and that maybe Katie would die later on during the game. Maybe even as a result of something Frank accidentally did. And then not only would Chuck go crazy, but would want personal revenge against Frank. I felt something along the lines of that would have strengthened this encounter. But that's just me. It's still a pretty solid fight by itself.
That guy was a few screws short of a workbench.
Well, zoinks!
Another person you can't help but feel a little sorry for. Cliff Hudson is a Vietnam veteran, experiencing war flashbacks. He encounters Frank and thinks he's a member of the Viet Cong.
By the time I'm done beating information out of you, you are gonna be begging for death to come take you away.
Alright, Cliff, buddy, listen, let me lay this out for you, alright? This
You are nothing but a filthy communist!
is not beating, alright? I mean, look, I know you're hallucinating being a soldier right now and everything, but you also gotta hallucinate the proper torture etiquette, alright? Don't go cherry-picking your hallucinations here, boy. The fight with Cliff immediately kinda puts you on edge, what with the decapitated corpses hanging overhead and the massive puddles of blood in the store, and Cliff likes to teleport through vents throughout the store and hide on the tops of shelves, pretty much stalking Frank. So a lot of the fight is trying to find Cliff before Cliff finds Frank first. After Frank defeats Cliff, Cliff regains his sanity as he slowly dies. He apologizes for his actions and gives Frank the key to where he has hostages tied up, explaining he went crazy hearing the screams of his granddaughter as the zombies killed her. After dying, Frank closes Cliff's eyes out of respect. Even though they were already closed, but hey, it's the thought that counts. Oh, also points for Cliff being voiced by Stephen Bloom.
You can't tell me, can you, fella? Oh yeah, I know why. It's because you're Viet Cong.
Ooh, the things I would do for that voice. Okay, not those things!
Oh yeah.
So we felt pretty bad for our last couple bosses, haven't we? So let's make fun of a gross one. Darlene, not even gonna try this one, is a clinically obese glutton completely obsessed with food. Not quite sure if she's at Homer Simpson levels yet, but we're getting there. And she is very persistent. Even confined to a mobility scooter, she is not willing to let any of her food go. Even stabbing someone in cold blood. With a spork. And people say sporks are useless. Sporks are amazing. Everybody should have a spork. I should have a spork. I'm gonna make a spork right now. Check it out. Why isn't this working? Darlene's scooter is the fastest scooter known to man, developed by scientists at NASA and can travel at light speeds. Or at least that's the story I'm gonna make up now, because how the hell can she do that?
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
She also attacks by throwing silverware and vomiting. Yes, vomit causes damage to Nick. That's because it's nuclear vomit developed by scientists at NASA. Ironically, Nick can also damage Darlene by force-feeding her. No thanks. I don't want to stick my hands anywhere near this disaster area. Thank you. When Nick defeats Darlene, her scooter flips on the nuke puke, and she begins throwing up uncontrollably, and dies by drowning in her own throw-up as she's producing it. Yeah, Nick, I don't think the health inspector's giving this place a good review either. We're back from commercial already? Okay, so kind of a spoiler alert for this next boss. I mean, this is a required boss to beat in the story of Dead Rising 3, but I'm not going to talk about anything plot-wise that happens. I'm just going to talk about the fight itself, not like, you know, the stuff that goes on in the background. So you shouldn't have to worry about anything too big here, and besides, do you really care about Dead Rising's story anyway? So plot happens, and Nick's friend Diego Martinez has a bit of a moment.
Unknown life forms approaching. The analysis reveals inside the carnage.
Gotta get out of here. The bomb's gonna go off.
Copy that. Life forms shall be neutralized and any organic remnants brought back to the ship for further analysis.
Ah, damn it. I wasted the NASA jokes on Darlene. The funny thing about this is that the game states Diego is merely spooked and not completely insane yet, but merely spooked people are this coordinated? I applaud Diego, man. What a champ. Diego attacks with a fully powered astronaut suit that this museum just has for some reason, and even throws entire exhibits at Nick. Like the moon. So I have to commend him for getting his battle strategies from Hyrule Warriors. The overly epic music is the cherry on this already tasty sundae. After Nick defeats Diego, he snaps out of it.
I'm so sorry I had to do that to you, please. Get up, bud.
Yeah, Diego, I'm sorry I had to shoot the crap out of you with my crossbow machine gun hybrid and harness the power of the gods. You okay? Yeah, man. Just the flesh wound. I'm good. And before leaving the museum, Diego takes off the fully armed, flight-enabled astronaut outfit? Is he a Sean is a deranged priest who goes around Willamette Mall sacrificing the tainted blood of non-believers. Non-believers of what? I'm not sure. The game doesn't state any specific religion. Come on, Capcom! Get specific! Start those controversies! That's all anybody wants to talk about nowadays anyway. The actual fight with Sean is a pretty easy fight, and he doesn't have any particular whoa man kind of attacks, but there's a lot of non-battle things working for his favor. For one, he actually has an entire cult. The True Eye Cult. These guys are everywhere Frank goes. They stand completely still most of the time and pray, I think. When Frank gets close, however, they'll make their move. They're sort of easy to take care of if there's only a few and you know what you're doing, but they can be tricky in a whole pack. They can hit you with knockout gas. When this happens, Frank is automatically taken to their hideout, stripped of clothing and weapons, and left in a box, which they forget to lock, so you know someone's getting fired. And the only way out is to defeat the cultists in the room, which for unexperienced players is kinda difficult, so for them, this is basically a prolonged game over. A lot of bosses in the series are isolated incidents. You meet them, you fight them, that's it. But Sean, as well as the cult, are introduced very early on, and the cult poses a constant threat throughout the whole game, long before you even have the option to finally go challenge Sean head-on. And I know I said the fight was easy, but damn, for a man over 60 years old, he's pretty agile. After defeating Sean, he prays to the Wii Fit trainer to give him strength.
Give me strength. I beseech thee!
Only to get brutally rejected.
Focus on holding your balance.
Theodore Smith is a very easy opponent to dispatch. Like, really easy. It's his pet we gotta worry about.
Snowflake, go and eat your fresh meat. Nice and slow.
When Chuck enters the Yucatan Casino for the first time, Ted knocks him out and attempts to feed him to Snowflake, saying all her meat ran out and that zombies are too rotten to eat. Chuck attempts to talk his way out of it.
Nice
The negotiations could have gone a bit better, so the fight begins. Like I said, Ted is pretty easy, even at level 1, and he'll be the first of the duo you'll most likely defeat. The real fun comes when you have to deal with Snowflake. She is a million times harder to tangle with than Ted, due to, you know, being a tiger. And chances are you're at a very low level when you fight her for the very first time, and she can wreck you with ease. However, you actually don't have to kill Snowflake. Snowflake starts the fight with half HP. You can either kill her like you would with any regular boss, or you can actually tame her. If you're able to trick Snowflake into eating enough pieces of steak, she'll reach max HP and will then become a recruitable survivor. And having Snowflake with you, damn man, she wastes those Zambas! But unfortunately, you can't have your tiger bodyguard for too long, because eventually you'll have to take her back to the safe house. While there, and I'm being serious, Chuck can give Snowflake, as a gift, to Katie! His 5-year-old daughter, giving the same tiger that almost mauled us 5 minutes ago, and he wonders why this happens! Chef Antoine, the self-proclaimed king of cuisine, is the owner of a small restaurant and cookware store, and a man of little notoriety. He was supposed to be interviewed by someone from a famous food magazine, but some stuff kinda happened, and his chances at fame are crushed. But he remains under the illusion that the guy is still on the way, and actually mistakes Chuck for said reviewer, something Chuck clearly gets all the time. Antoine intends to serve a hostage he has as his dish, but Chuck lets on that he's not the reviewer. An ill-advised tactic, but I digress. His arsenal consists of standard kitchenware, including knives, dishes, and the worst of all, Vitamin C. He also runs around like he really has to go to the bathroom, and he has a lot of pretty humorous lines.
What's the matter? Over easy? Oh, I do like to play with my food. You'll make a fine pate.
I'm gonna kick it up a little bit.
He's pretty tough to fight if you're not careful. After Chuck defeats him, Antoine has what is probably one of the most clumsiest deaths in the series. Chef Antoine has just been served. Chef Antoine just got cooked. Chef Antoine is, really bad at his job. Yeah, players of the series probably knew this guy was coming a mile away. The general consensus seems to be that this is the psychopath everyone remembers most. Even Capcom knew Adam was pretty popular, and specifically because of that, they added Adam's brother as a boss in Dead Rising 2 off the record. He was pretty cool, but he does not hold a candle to Adam. Adam McIntyre is a pretty intimidating individual by himself. For starters, he is juggling 2 chainsaws! 2 active chainsaws! He likes to do a lot of barrel rolling to close the distance between him and Frank, at which point he can immediately do a chainsaw swipe. He also throws knives which, depending on how close Frank is, can be very tricky to dodge. The worst part, though, is that Adam is capable, and usually will, deflect any projectile shots with his chainsaws. Oh, also Adam moonjumps and breathes fire, you know, regular clown stuff. Another point of interest is Adam's boss theme. A voice starts chiming in at one point, and to this day, I don't think anyone's figured out for sure what the heck it's saying. With a fork? Whip that pork? Would you go home already?
Oh yeah.
And something about a game show in there? Oh boy, what do I win? This game show sucks. Yeah, his theme makes no sense. But whatever, Adam's still scary. For bonus points, try fighting Adam at night when all the lights in the mall go out. You'll be fine. After Frank defeats Adam, Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Now, I figured I could throw a bit of a curveball for this video's question of the day. Rather than predictably ask you who your favorite psychopath is, I figured we could get a little creative in here. So if you had the opportunity to make your own psychopath to add into a future Dead Rising game, what would it be? Give as many details as you possibly can. Name, occupation, moves, scenario under which you fight them. Whatever. Get creative. Get those brains thinking. I said their trigger word.